Hello and welcome to today's episode, which explains obtaining long-term finance from EXIM banks, rules, practices, Part 2. Students, in our last episode, we were able to cover only flagship program out of 5. Today, we will cover all remaining 4. We'll refresh you with basic terminology used and then we'll straight move on the flagship programs. First, Overseas Investment Finance. Second, Project Finance. Third, Line of Credit. Fourth, Corporate Banking. Fifth, Buyer's Credit under NEIA. We have covered the fifth one as it explains the most relevant program in terms of long-term financing. Like always, before moving to details of today's topic, let me give a quick introduction about myself. I am Ms. Pallavi Mohan, working since 17 plus years, both nationally and internationally. Worked in 5 countries and studied in 3 countries. Have held leadership positions in the field of marketing, retail, operations, PR and communications. Recent assignment was with Samsung Electronics as corporate communication professional, contributing towards 4 countries. Well, let's get started with basic terms now. For the topic, EXIM. EXIM, Export-Import Bank of India, is the premier export finance institution in India, established in 1982 under the Export-Import Bank of India Act 1981. Since its inspection, EXIM Bank of India has been both a catalyst and a key player in the promotion of cross-border trade and investment. Commencing operation as a provider of export credit like other export credit agencies in the world, EXIM Bank of India has over a period evolved in an institution that plays a major role in partnering Indian industries, particularly the small and medium enterprises in their globalization efforts, though a wide range of products and services offered at all stages of business cycle. Starting from import of technology and export product development to export production, export marketing, pre-shipment and post-shipment and overseas investment. Export-Import Bank of India is a premium export finance institution of country with the following flagship program. They are: first, Overseas Investment Finance; second, Project Finance; third, Line of Credit; fourth, Corporate Banking; fifth, Buyer's Credit under NEIA. EXIM Bank encourages Indian companies to invest abroad for setting up manufacturing units and for acquiring overseas company to get access to the foreign market, technology, raw material, brand, IPR, etc. For financing such overseas investment, EXIM Bank provides A. Term loans to Indian companies up to 80% of their equity investment in overseas JV. Term loans to Indian companies towards up to 80% of loan extended by them to the overseas JV. Term loans to overseas JV towards part financing. First part, capital expenditure towards acquisition of assets. Second, working capital. Third, equity investment in another company. Fourth, acquisition of brands, patents, rights and other IPR. Fifth, acquisition of another company. Sixth, any other activity that would otherwise be eligible for finance from EXIM banks had it been an Indian entity. D. Guarantee facility to the overseas JV for first, raising terms loan working capital. Eligibility to avail finance or services. EXIM Bank's funded, non-funded assistance is generally with recourse to the Indian promoter company. EXIM Bank financing is available in Indian rupee to the Indian borrower and in foreign currency, as per extant RBI guidelines. Commercial interest rates are changed on the term finance. The tenor range is usually 5 to 7 years with a suitable moratorium and repayments in suitable monthly, quarterly installments. Promoter's margin is minimal 20% and security will include inter alia appropriate charge on the asset of the overseas entity. Corporate guarantee of the Indian promoter backed by appropriate charge on its assets, political and or commercial risk cover, pledge of shares held by the Indian promoter in the overseas venture, etc. Projects involve activities like engineering, procurement, construction, civil, mechanical, electrical or instrumental, including provision of all desired and specified equipment and supplies, construction and building material, consultancy, technical know-how, technology, transfer, design engineering, basic or detailed, commissioning with other all such related services as are needed by the existing or new projects, plans, processes involving international competitive bidding, thus including even multilateral funded projects in India. Project exports occupy an important place in India's export portfolio. The contracts secured in the recent years have been quite diverse in nature, indicating growing versatility and technological capabilities of Indian project exporters. EXIM banks extends funded and non-funded facilities for overseas turnkey projects, civil construction contracts, technical and consultancy services contracts as well as supplies. Turnkey projects are those which involve supply of equipment along with related services like design, detailed engineering, civil construction, erection and commissioning of plant and power transmission and distribution. Construction projects involve civil work, steel structural works as well as associated supply of construction material and equipment for various infrastructure projects. Technical and consultancy services contracts involving provision of know-how skills, personnel and training are categorized as consultancy projects. Typical examples of services contracts are project implementation services, management contracts, supervision of erection of plants, CAD/CAM solutions in software, exports, finance and accounting systems. Supplies. Supply contracts involve primarily export of capital goods and industrial manufactures. Typical examples of supply contracts are supply of stainless steel slabs and ferrochrome, manufacturing equipments, diesel generators, pump and compressors. It could be funded facilities or non-funded facilities. Funded facilities, pre-shipment credit in Indian rupee and foreign currency provides access to finance at the manufacturing stage, enabling exporters to purchase raw material and other inputs. Exporters can also avail foreign currency pre-shipment credit facility to import raw material and other inputs required for export production. Post-shipment credit finances the export bill after shipment has been made. This facility enables Indian exporters to extend term credit in importers overseas of eligible goods at the post-shipment stage. Construction turnkey projects. Exporters can also avail foreign currency pre-shipment credit facility to import raw material and other inputs required for export production. These facilities are extended by EXIM Bank individually or in participation with commercial banks on a case-to-case basis. Eligibility. Indian manufacturers and project exporters can take advantage of these facilities to support their export trade financing requirement. The facilities cover Indian capital and engineering goods and related services. One of the following securities is taken by EXIM Bank: cash collateral, corporate guarantee, shareholder and or director's guarantee, landed property, charge on fixed and or floating assets of the consumers, assignment of insurance policies, agreements, contract proceeds, right and benefits, any other security acceptable to the bank. Export projects cash flow deficit finance is provided to Indian project exporters executing project export contract overseas. The facility, Indian rupee or foreign currency, enables project exporters to take care of temporary deficits in their cash flow during contract execution period. Eligibility: Indian companies executing contract within India but which are financed by multilateral funding agencies or contracts for which deemed export benefits are available under foreign trade policy can avail of credit under our finance for deemed export facility aimed at helping them meet cash flow deficits. Non-funded facilities: Indian companies can avail of these facilities to secure and facilitate execution of export contracts or deemed export contracts. Advance payment guarantee issued to project exporters to secure a project mobilization advance as a percentage 10 to 20% of the contract value, which is generally recovered on a pro rata basis from the progress payment during project execution. Performance guarantee IPG for up to 5 to 10% of contract value is issued, valid until completion of maintenance period and or grant of final acceptance certificates by the overseas employer. Retention money guarantee. This enables the exporters to obtain the release of retained payments from the client prior to issuance of project acceptance certificate, final acceptance certificate. A line of credit is financing mechanism through which EXIM Bank extends export for export of project equipments, goods and service from India. EXIM Bank extends LOC on its own and also at the behest and with support of Government of India. EXIM Bank extends line of credit to foreign government or their nominated agencies such as central banks, state-owned commercial banks and parastatal organizations. National or regional development banks, overseas financial institutions, commercial banks abroad, other suitable overseas entities. The above mentioned recipients of LOCs act as intermediaries and on lend overseas buyer for import of Indian equipment, goods and services. LOC is financing mechanism that provides a safe mode of non-recourse financing option to Indian exporters to enter new export markets or expand business in existing export markets without any payment risk from the overseas importers. A line of credit is in two parts. First, Government of India supported lines of credit. Second, EXIM Bank's own commercial lines of credit. Broad guidelines and procedures for Government of India supported lines of credit. The Government of India formulated Indian Development and Economic Assistance Scheme with the objective of sharing India's development experience through A. Capacity building and skill transfer, B. Trade, and C. Infrastructure development by extending concessional lines of credit routed through EXIM banks to developing partner countries towards creating socio-economic benefits in the partner country. Recently, the Minister of External Affairs has set up a development partnership admission division to deal with India's development assistance program abroad, including LOCs routed through EXIM banks. These LOCs are now increasingly being extended to partner countries for larger scale and complex project export from India. Bilateral or multilateral assistance through lines of credit typically follows a sequence of standard procedures, viz. A. Project identification and preparation, B. Review and approval of the project proposal, C. Offer of the loan acceptance and execution of loan agreement, D. Project implementation, monitoring and supervision, and E. Socio-economic impact assessment after project completion. The lesson learned from the Impact Assessment Evaluation Act as a feedback to the preparation, review and implementation of the future project. This process from the project cycle. Second, EXIM Bank's own commercial line of credit. Broad guidelines and procedures, EXIM Bank's own commercial line of credit. EXIM Bank, since its inspection, has been extending LOCs to various countries to promote export of Indian projects, products and services. Under the LOCs extended by EXIM Bank to overseas financial institutions, foreign governments, regional and national development banks and commercial banks. EXIM Banks finances all items eligible for being exported under the foreign trade policy of Government of India. The credit period for these LOCs are generally up to 7 years, and the LOC typically carry LIBOR-linked interest rates. The bank offers a number of finance programs for export-oriented units, importers, and for companies making overseas investment. The financing programs cater to term loan requirements of Indian exporters for financing their new project expansion, modernization, purchase of equipment, R&D, overseas investment, and also working capital requirements. First, finance for corporates. Second, finance for MSMEs. Third, finance for grassroots enterprises. First, finance for corporates. EXIM Bank encourages Indian exporters to invest more in their R&D spending in order to develop new products, processes, IPRs for enhancing export capabilities. Considering the need to bridge the funding gap of Indian exporters in R&D space, the bank has dedicated R&D finance program. Under the said program, financing for R&D can be extended to any export-oriented company, special purpose vehicle promoted by companies, irrespective of the nature of the industry. The financing covers both capital and revenue expenditure, including inter alia, land and building, civil works for housing, eligible R&D activities, equipments, tools, computer hardware, software, miscellaneous fixed assets used in eligible R&D activities. Acquisition of technology from India or overseas at the proof of concept or design stage, which will be used to develop new product, process, salaries of R&D personnel, support staff during the R&D project, phasing including training cost, cost of regulatory approvals, filing and maintenance of patent registration, product documentation, and allied cost during R&D project phase. Eligibility. Export-oriented firms with exports actual projected at least 5 crores or 10% of annual turnover. R&D finance is generally extended up to 7 years. However, longer tenures with suitable interest receipt would be permissible. Structured repayment can be considered to match the cash flow. Up to 80% of total project cost can be funded. Security to include inter alia appropriate charge on the assets, corporate guarantee, charge, assignment on the regulatory approval, IPR, personal guarantee, etc. EXIM Bank extends export credit to Indian exporters to meet a wide range of trade financing requirements for execution of the export transaction. Bank also extends as part of export credit assistance non-fund based limit inter alia, including issuance of letter of credit, both foreign and inland, and bank guarantee, both foreign and inland, for its clients. The credit limits are generally extended as a part borrower's consortium limit and are operated as running account facility. The limits may be renewed for further period subject to satisfactory review of account and depending on the borrower's export credit requirement. The facilities can be drawn in either Indian rupee or foreign currency. Eligibility. Indian exporter with a track record, the limit should be within the MPBF of borrower's SS bank finance. Margin of 15 to 20% under pre-shipment and 0 to 10% under post-shipment. Adequate security to be provided. Typical security includes appropriate charge on the current assets, including export receivable, EC/GC covers, etc. EXIM Bank provides term loans to export-oriented Indian companies to finance various capital expenditures, including certain soft expenditure, in order to improve their export capability and to enhance their international competitiveness. Loans guarantee are extended for the following purposes: expansion, modernization, upgradation, or diversification projects, including acquisition of equipment, technology, etc. Export marketing, export product development, setting up of software technology parks. Eligibility, manufacturing trading services companies with a minimum export orientation, actual projected of 10% of their annual turnover, or exports of 5 crores per annum, whichever is lower, are eligible to avail finance from EXIM banks. EXIM Bank's finances is available in Indian rupee and in foreign currency. Commercial interest rates are charged on the term finance. The tenor range is usually 7 to 10 years with a suitable moratorium and repayments in suitable monthly, quarterly installments. Promoter's margin is minimum 20% and appropriate charge on a fixed assets of the company project plus any other acceptable security including personal guarantee may be stipulated. Finance for MSMEs a part of the corporate banking facilities. There are additional services that EXIM Bank offers to support small and medium enterprise. EXIM Bank has arranged for a credit line from the Asian Development Bank for providing foreign currency terms loan to MSMEs borrowers in certain specific lagging states of India, viz. Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Rajasthan and Uttarakhand. These foreign currency terms loans can also finance domestic capital expenditure of the borrower in Indian rupee besides meeting their foreign currency capital expenditure requirements. The assistance to these MSMEs will help in increasing competitiveness in the relatively backward states and help in integrating them into mainstream economy. Eligibility: export-oriented MSMEs incorporated in the above-mentioned lagging states. Purpose: to meet long-term foreign currency loan requirements of Indian exporting entities in the MSME sector for financing their eligible capital expenditure pertaining to inter alia setting up of new facilities, expansion, modernization of existing facilities, acquisition of equipment and plant and machinery, setting up of testing R&D facilities, setting up of captive power plants, cogeneration plant, setting up of infrastructure facilities like effluent treatment plants, storages, warehouses, etc. The tenor of the loan will be up to 7 years, including suitable moratorium. EXIM Banks, besides providing financial assistance to individual MSME, also provides financial assistance to special purpose vehicle for a cluster of MSMEs. Term loan are provided to such clusters of MSME units for the following activities: development and maintenance of common infrastructure, common facilities, including inter alia construction of building and civil works, acquisition of assets technology for the benefit of industrial units within the cluster industrial park, development of an industrial estate by industrial users, industry associations and or government bodies, upgradation of an existing industrial cluster or industry estate, development of specific infrastructure including common effluent treatment plant, captive power plant, transportation linkages, hazardous waste disposal, development of common facilities centers like testing centers, cold storage for industrial cluster, industrial estate or a group of industries with common interest. These terms are such a tongue twister, however, the details of the terms are important. With a view to facilitate credit flow to the MSME sector at competitive rates, EXIM Bank has set up a Technology and Innovation Enhancement and Infrastructure Development Fund of USD 500 million exclusively for MSMEs to augment their export competitiveness and internationalization efforts by partnering with banks, FIs, a Technology and Innovation Enhancement and Infrastructure Development. TIEID seeks to meet long-term foreign currency loan requirements of Indian exporting entities in the MSME sector for meeting capital expenditure through refinancing of bank FIs against their eligible SME financing portfolio. Eligibility: scheduled commercial banks, financial institutions in India having acceptable credit risk for an on-leading MSME units. Eligibility: beneficiary: ultimate beneficiary of the foreign currency funds provided to eligible banks FIs shall be MSME units in India having a minimum export orientation of 10% of annual turnover or exports of 5 crores per annum in absolute terms, whichever is lower. The loan should be used to meet long-term foreign currency loan requirement of Indian exporting entities in the MSME sector for meeting eligible capital expenditure. Eligible capital expenditure including technology, upgradation, capacity creation, common infrastructure development like captive power plant, common effluent treatment plant, hazardous waste disposal facility, testing facilities, etc. The creative industry are those industries which have their own origin, individual creativity, skill and talent, and which have a potential for wealth and job creation through the generation and exploration of intellectual property viz. Advertising, architecture, art, antiques, market, craft, design, designing fashion, film, video, interactive leisure software, music, performing arts, publishing, software and computer services, television, radio, etc. In view of a large untapped potential for increasing exports by the creative industry and in order to provide a strategic focus to this sector and enhance EXIM Bank's presence in the creative economy space and as corollary in the MSME segment, EXIM Bank has introduced a program specifically for financing the creative economy. Eligibility: the illustrative list of industry sector include heritage, traditional cultural expression, art and craft, festivals, celebrations, etc. Cultural sites, historical monuments, museum, libraries, archives, etc. Art, visual arts, painting, sculpture, antique photography, etc. Performing arts, live music, theatre, dance, opera, media, publishing and printed media, books, newspapers, press and other publications, audio visuals, film, TV, radio, broadcasting are examples. New media, digitization, content, software, video games, animation and more. Functional creation, design, interior graphic, fashion jewelry, toys are examples. Creative services, architectural advertising, creative R&D, cultural services, digital services. Third, finance for grassroots enterprise. The bank supports globalization of the enterprise based on rural areas of the country, though its GRID program. Through this initiative, the bank extends financial supports to promote grassroots initiative technologies, particularly those having export potential. The objective of the program is to help producers, group, cluster, small enterprise across the country realize remuneration return on their produce, essentially through facilitating exports from these units. The group handles credit proposals from such organization working at a rural grassroots level and offers tailor-made financial products to cater to their needs. The group is mandated to work towards developing a robust, vibrant and holistic approach in its intervention by providing assistance at various stages of product development, business cycle, including capacity building, export, capability creation, expansion, diversification, and finally exports. The broad area of support extended by the bank through its grassroots initiatives inter alia, including capacity building, development of common facility centers, construction of raw material bank, technology, upgradation, and creation of export capability. Eligibility: the organization eligible for support should meet various criteria, including but not limited to the following: should be legal entity registered under respective state, central government act as a society, trust, cooperative, private limited company, producer company or NGO, etc. Should be working with communities as grassroots level for promoting income generating activities based on the traditional skills using indigenous or local available material in the areas of product development and design, capacity building, market developments, etc. Should have proven track record of creating, adopting sustainable livelihood model which could be upscaled and replicated across the geographies sharing similar characteristics, demographic, cultural, socio-economic similarities. Should be exporting directly or indirectly. With this, we cover the 4 flagship programs of EXIM Bank rules, practices, and we had covered the 5th one in the previous episode. That is all for today. Hope you have understood the flagship program. See you next time with the next topic. Till then, take care. Bye.